For our final panel today, we discuss how to build teams and leverage partnerships for successful R&D efforts. Partnerships can be a great way to access resources and expertise as you approach the SBIR STTR programs. This panel will be led by David Kistin, who serves as Sandia National Labs Technology and Economic Development Manager. So pass the floor to you, David. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this panel discussion. We have an amazing group here and just want to start by thanking all of you for tuning in. So today we're talking about partnerships as a catalyst for success and innovation in entrepreneurship. So why is it strong team so critical in the context of SBIR STTR programs? To answer this question, we have an incredible panel of experts. This includes federal program managers with a deep understanding of the intricacies of these programs, awardees who have successfully navigated the different pathways, and representatives from support organizations who are dedicated to fostering innovation. So we hope you leave today's session with some actionable insights and a better grasp of what it takes to build a winning team. I think, as always, just encourage folks to reach out early and often to all of our panelists. This is an amazing group, and I'm sure everyone would love to follow up afterwards. So with that, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves. We're going to go around the horn, and we can start with Myrriah.
Thanks, David. I'm Myrriah Tomar. I am the Executive Director for the Office of Innovation Commercialization at New Mexico Tech. And my experience with SBIR and STTR programs is working directly with faculty at New Mexico Tech. We have faculty that are both applying for SBIRs with their startup, or we have faculty that are working with a R&D company on an STTR. So if there's anything that I'd like for you to take away today, it would be to know that there are partnerships for STTR, SBIRs with the universities. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. And yeah, panel, feel free to jump in, whoever would like to take it next.
I'm Melinda Coffman. I'm from USDA SBIR STTR program. I've been with this program. I'm the program coordinator, and I've been with this program for a little over 3 years. And we are always looking for ways to partner and to we try very hard to do that. We try to partner with a lot of assistance organizations, SBDCs, SBTDCs, FAST programs, all of those, but we're also trying to connect, researchers at nonprofit research institutions who are in need of a small business. We're trying to find ways to connect those two, and also vice versa, small businesses that have an innovation but need some help with the research. So we're always looking for ways to do that. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you.
Good afternoon. I'm Therese Rivera. I'm the program manager of New Mexico Apex Accelerators, formerly known as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, fondly known as and formerly known as PTACs. I come to PTAC after almost 27 years of experience at the State Economic Development Department, and joined formerly PTAC in 2019, so about 4.5 years in this new job, and just feel like I'm pretty well versed in a lot of resources and know all the resource partners around the whole entire state. So hope I can add some value to this great panel. It's been a great event all day, and go Aggies on Saturday.
Absolutely. Thanks, Therese. And finally, Cliff.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon. I'm Cliff Hudson. I'm CEO of Emerging Technology Ventures in Alamogordo, New Mexico. We're a small business focused on autonomous systems and artificial intelligence at the edge for inspection and response in complex environments such as aerospace, critical infrastructure, and agriculture. We've been a beneficiary of several SBIRs, both from Department of Defense and NASA. We're currently executing a phase 2 with NASA. And the thing I'd really like to share today is importance of strategic partnerships, not for just the point in time of a phase 1, but taking the long view and how to structure those agreements for success to move from phase 1 all the way through phase 3. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you, Cliff. Thanks everybody for joining. This is an amazing group. So now we're gonna move in. I'm gonna just ask some questions to specific folks on the panel and to the group. Everyone feel free to jump in, and then we'll open it up to the audience here at the end. So first question, Myrriah, to you. Conversations around intellectual property can be difficult when bringing new players to your team. So whether it's the research institutions like New Mexico Tech or key personnel, how do you recommend protecting IP as the companies that are here today think about bringing on team members?
I think that's a great question, David. So what I would say is, first and foremost, if you are an inventor, you did contribute, you should be on the patent, but you shouldn't be adding people that didn't contribute, or maybe they were with you on a paper. It has to be someone that actually contributed to the conception of the idea. So I would say if you have something that you think is patentable, file provisional. It doesn't cost very much to do that. And it gives you that 1-year placeholder to decide whether you want to file a full patent. But I think as new members come onto the team, it really depends on what their contribution is to the next patent. Because I'm sure there's going to be multiple. So I think you really have to follow the rules of inventorship based on the USPTO. Has to be someone that helped conceive the idea or was part of the creation of the technology. So that would be my recommendation, but definitely file IP, especially if you're going to be looking for VC funding later. Or, I've also seen folks that don't file IP, and then someone else can, take their idea, or they can go around them. So if you can file fast. It's really cheap to file a provisional.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. The next question, Melinda, is for you. So the USDA SBIR program recently expanded to include STTR opportunities, which require partnering with research institutions. How has this affected startup competitiveness as they go through the application process?
Well, while STTR is a much smaller program than SBIR, we're really excited to have it and to get the word out there that we have it. So this will be our second full year of having STTR. So I think the advantage is that it gives more opportunities you can take, if your project requires more research than what SBIR usually allows, then you have the option now of STTR. If you work at a university and you have a project, you no longer have to cut back your hours. There are a bunch of advantages for that. And for USDA, you can, there's a box on the application that says you can mark both STTR, SBIR. Doesn't mean you get both for the same project. It probably should say either. So you can structure your research, the percentage that the small business is doing and the percentage that you're subcontracting to a nonprofit research institution. You can structure it so that it would fit in either bucket, SBIR or STTR. And I think that's a great advantage, which just makes you more competitive.
So is that something, do you help folks as they're making that decision? It sounds like it's easy to not have to decide. as you're going through it. But is there guidance for folks as they're looking at the two?
The guidance we give is base it on your project. Don't, even though I did say, it gives you a competitive edge. What we're really looking at here is the science and technology and how that's going to benefit the American public. So it really has to be based on your project. But if you happen to fall in that category, then it is, it can be an advantage to have that. And it can be an advantage in a lot of ways. Again, you don't have to decrease, if you're a university staff, you don't have to decrease your hours at the university for STTR, which is a big obstacle for a lot of university professors and others at universities.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's good. And I think on the question of impact, so Cliff, maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but what kinds of partnerships or collaborations have had the largest impact, for you working through these programs? And do you have any recommendations for other startups, right, as they're looking on, potentially bringing partners into the work in response to these opportunities?
Okay. Thank you, David. For us, we've really cut across the spectrum. We've been partnered with primes. Lockheed Martin and IBM have been outstanding for us. Phase one is really key in getting a letter of support from that prime. And then as you move forward, as we're doing now in phase two with NASA, IBM is actually part of the executing team for the project with us as well. The other value they really support is, again, that long-term view. As you look at commercialization and transition, they bring resources to address scaling issues and how you're really going to field and support your product. And it's important that you begin to think about that in phase one. The federal labs play a key role for us. We're very appreciative of the relationship that we have with Sandia National Labs through the NMSBA program, and we've actually included Sandia in several of our SBIR proposals in the past as well. That's a very strong partnership. Other small businesses, as you start looking at a requirement, you may find a hole there from the technology standpoint. And so quite honestly, I visit SBIR.gov. I look at previous abstracts, and I begin to try to look at a small business that may have a complementary technology to really strengthen our proposal as we move forward. And then from the academic institution standpoint, we've been very appreciative of our relationship with New Mexico Tech and New Mexico State University and Navajo Technical University too. They're a big part of our projects. My advice, is start early before the SBIR even comes out. Those partnerships are so important that having that framework in place for an agreement before that time, because it's really a short cycle once the actual topics come out on the street. So I recommend you start building that cadre of relationships early on.
So I think a really good takeaway for everyone, what I heard was that Sandia Labs is great. And so I think that's a good one for everyone to no bias on my side. So Therese, Cliff, talked about building out a coalition, right? A network before you go into applications, right? And you see this all the time, I think, in your work, especially the relationships between small businesses and prime. So how crucial is team building for companies that are in your network that want to bring innovative ideas to commercialization? What should people be looking for from your perspective?
Was that still for Cliff or was that for Therese?
Oh, that's for you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I thought I heard my name, wasn't sure. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background about Apex Accelerators just to start, in that because we've changed a little bit from formerly Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We were funded under the Defense Logistics Agency. Now we're funded still under the Department of Defense, but under the Office of Small Business Programs. So really more aligned with all of the business programs under the Office of Small Business Programs under the DoD, kind of elevated our where we are and our importance on, how we assist the whole entire supply chain, specifically military supply chain, Department of Defense supply chain. But, they're really emphasizing for us to encourage innovation and help businesses really with, in my previous job, helping with commercialization to the private marketplace, but now into the government marketplace, and how can businesses improve, the warfighters, making sure that all of their innovative products or services can, really keep all of our warfighters safe. And I know all of us think that that's really important as well. But as far as partnerships and teaming and relationship building is, very key to, a business. I think, New Mexico is great because I've known Cliff for years and years, and just like all of the networks that he's really built upon, utilized in New Mexico, because we're such a small state, and it's great that we have open doors to really all of our leadership, all of our legislators. Cliff took an opportunity to do that throughout the years, we're walking into Economic Development Department offices, SBDC offices, West, utilizing all of the state incentive programs, as well as, utilizing the, like I said, SBDC, West, and all the resource partners that are out here. And he has become such a great success just by, following that kind of example, is like knock on all the doors of all of the partners and resources that are available to you, including opening, walk into your legislators' offices, calling them, knocking on their doors and asking for assistance, and use resources like Apex Accelerators. How we really help move the needle in all of these areas is really starting a business, kind of thinking through what's involved in government contracting early on. And SBIR, SBIR, STTR, it is a grant program very similar to, the application is very similar to getting an actual contract with the government. Many of the SBIR agencies, I shouldn't say many, some of them require a business to have a system for award management, have an actual account in the system for award management. Not all of them, but most of them do. And that's, a little bit of a process. So start with us and we can walk you through that process of having that. What we hate seeing as a business that's like, oh, I have this great opportunity to bid on this contract or this SBIR, and then it's due, in the next 2 weeks, and they're ready to apply and realize that they don't have a SAM account, and realize that, sometimes it can take a while depending on, any past history that you've had with SAM registration and revalidating. If you're a company that has to revalidate, it's taking in some cases 30 days. So just kind of use us first, and then we can kind of point you in all the directions and work with you on finding the right resource, or if it's us, walking you through system for award management or any of the other things that we assist businesses with. And that's even getting qualified as a hub zone or a small business, small disadvantaged business, or veteran-owned business, or what have you. We can walk you through all those processes. So.
Yeah, that is huge. This is such a big resource for the state. And we benefit a lot from all the good work that you all do. Just getting people through all that red tape, it can be, I think, really daunting for anybody. And yeah, it's a huge, huge asset. Circling back a little bit, and Cliff, would love if you can start, and any examples from the rest of the panel on examples of successful partnerships that significantly contributed to the commercialization pathway for your company. So Cliff, you had mentioned, in the past, you've had letters of support from primes, you brought in companies to be part of the executing team. Therese, I know that you all often work, and see the combination of primes and smaller startups, especially around procurement. But Cliff, if you could start and maybe just talk about, some specific partnerships that helped you all in the past. I think that would be great. And I think you had mentioned Lockheed Martin, but anything that you feel comfortable sharing would be great.
Okay. I'm actually going to highlight a relationship we have with IBM, and Lockheed, and Lockheed has been an important partner as well. This one is because it's really helping us towards commercialization of our phase 2 outcomes. We were selected for the IBM AI mentorship program at the end of 2021 and executed it in 2022 with them. Once we completed that program, IBM selected us for their partnership program. Out of that came an embedded solution agreement that allowed us to embed our software within IBM solutions, especially IBM Maximo, which is an enterprise asset management program. They have a wide customer base, and so that gave us immediate market access to products that were already out there. We want to follow our own pathway as well for our standalone product, but being able to have that kind of agreement in place and be able to reach out to their customer base that's already deploying a particular package and be able to add a value-added solution to that package was very important, and touching customers early while we continue to develop our customer base as well.
How did you get into that program, Cliff? What was that process like?
It was actually an accelerator, Mass Challenge. Some people may know about Mass Challenge, which is really a worldwide accelerator program. So IBM teamed with Mass Challenge, and we applied for the program. And it gave us, being a small business, one of the key things that we were concerned about, especially in AI, is ethics associated with AI development. And so IBM gave us some great skills in that area. And how do we develop our processes and procedures to ensure that the AI we develop is going to be ethical and understandable, most importantly, to the customers too. You want to know how that AI is functioning and how those outcomes that it's deriving are developed.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm curious, Melinda, from your perspective, when you see partnerships like this, like what Cliff is describing, how does this augment an SBIR STTR proposal? And do you all provide any guidance for companies that are looking to establish similar relationships with maybe established industry partners or even university partners, to your point, right, about the STTR program launching?
Do we encourage these types of partnership? Was that your primary question? Of course, yeah. We're looking for both innovation that is going to really benefit agriculture and the American public, but also some measure of success. That this innovation, this technology has a really good chance of making it into the marketplace. And so those types of partnerships are really, really looked upon favorably. I would like to add, I hope it doesn't distract from this conversation, but we also have cooperative research and development agreements. And those are really valuable for many reasons. One of them, it gives you an advantage when you're being evaluated. USDA is a granting agency, not a contracting agency. So there are peer review panels for each topic area. And if two proposals are deemed to be of equal merit by the panel, and one has a CRADA agreement, cooperative research and development agreement, and the other does not, the one with the CRADA is chosen. So it's an advantage that way, but it's also an advantage to the small business because you get to use facilities, lab facilities, federal lab facilities, not just in agriculture, but it's all federal labs. So if you have a match for a project of federal labs working on, you can use their facilities at no cost. So that's an excellent kind of partnering opportunity. The agreements, once you make a match, the agreements are fairly easy as federal agreements go.
So how would folks connect with? So I work at Sandia. We are a DOE lab, and so we have a partnerships group that helps folks kind of work through that. Is there something similar for the USDA laboratories where people can go and just get more information about CRADAs and how to partner?
Yes, there is. It goes through the Agricultural Research Service. The SBIR, STTR program is actually in the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA. But this goes through our sister agency, the Agricultural Research Service, in the Technology Transfer Office. And, if anybody feels like that would be a good path to explore, they can email me and I can connect you with somebody in the ARS Office of Technology Transfer.
And I think everyone listening can quote Melinda when she says, "This is easy." So these are easy agreements, which is, I'm sure there's a sliding scale.
Yes.
Yeah.
David,
Yeah.
David, we have a couple of questions from the Q&A that kind of pertain to partnerships. I'd like to interject here. One of them is, should I obtain a letter of support from an organization I want to partner with before I apply? What is the process for obtaining the letter and how long does it take?
So let's open that up. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I'll take part of that if you don't mind, David.
Yeah.
I'll reference Lockheed Martin actually in this one. When each topic release comes out, you can register with Lockheed Martin and they'll actually send you an Excel spreadsheet of the topics that they're interested in. And they have a quad chart. And you complete the quad chart, submit it to the appropriate division within Lockheed Martin. And if they're interested, then they'll schedule a briefing with you. And that kind of moves forward and hopefully results in a letter of support for the proposal. We've gone through that several times with Lockheed Martin. Craig Owens, who was, I think, was going to be at the conference today, has been very beneficial in supporting us in that process. With IBM, we had an existing relationship. They had not generated letters of support before, and so we asked them, and so it was kind of an education process on our part, actually, with our mentor relationship, but we were able to receive a letter of support for our NASA work, and so we were again very appreciative, and we think it really helped our proposal.
Nice, thank you. And roughly what kind of timeline has, in your experience, Cliff, has that taken?
With Lockheed Martin, it's normally about a 3-week process. And they will actually, when they send you the Excel spreadsheet, give you the cutoff date of submission so that they can return a timely letter of support to you as well. And they usually try to cut off or get the letter to you about a week before the proposal's due.
I have one more quick one for Myrriah regarding intellectual property. When you bring on new partners or team members, whether it be research institutions or key personnel, how do you recommend to protect your IP as you bring on new team members?
Oh, I think we addressed that one earlier, Chris, but I can answer it again. Oh, sorry, kind of caught me off guard. What was the question again?
How do you recommend dealing with IP when bringing on new
partners?
New partners.
Okay. Let's see. If I was bringing on new partners, I think there has to be a discussion amongst the team as to who contributed to the intellectual property. It's possible that before that team member even joined, that IP was filed. So you filed a provisional patent. So I think it's a discussion that has to happen between the team members, how that's going to be divided, who contributed what to the project or to the idea. So I think it's really a conversation amongst the team members. And
well, so maybe a follow on to that, Myrriah, and I think Melinda, this is relevant also for the agency. So if a company has IP and they want to sub a portion of their award to the university, how does that work? So do they retain full rights to their IP even if there's some contribution from New Mexico Tech, or how do you deal with that?
I think it depends on the university. With respect to New Mexico Tech, if we have a small business or a startup that wants to work with our faculty, they're bringing existing IP. The idea is that if they created it, belongs to them. However, if there's intellectual property that's created through this sub-award by New Mexico Tech, it would either be negotiated as either joint IP, or it would belong to New Mexico Tech, and we would grant an exclusive license to the company. We've done it both ways. So I think it really depends on what's created and what the sub-award, if IP is created in that sub-award. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
And I would just add, for most SBIR, the IP belongs to the small business most of the time. Not that it, can't be shared, but that is something that's kind of critical for small businesses when they are awarded SBIR.
Yeah, that's great. So another question. It looks like, Ken, you have your question about Apex accelerators answered, but the question was, do Apex accelerators help with facilitators outside of New Mexico or in New Mexico only? And Therese, it sounds like there are Apex accelerators around the country, so you all can connect New Mexico businesses out to get support.
Yes, so I can work with Kenny outside of this forum, specifically on what his requests are. I think he was trying to find other agencies in other parts of the country to connect with. And because Apex accelerators are all over. There's like 97 around the United States and Guam and Puerto Rico, and we attend conferences, we network, we know one another fairly well, and we can make those connections for you. But ultimately, when you become a client of Apex Accelerator New Mexico, you kind of stay our client. So the DoD doesn't want us to kind of double count our clients, but we can, work with you. Just give me a call and we'll see how we can help you.
Sounds good. So on that, and there was a question earlier about the kinds of services, which, Therese, I think you answered, but and this kind of goes to everyone, but I'm curious how you deal with this with clients, is as teams are preparing materials, right? Is there support to help? And I know New Mexico Fast plays a big role here at Arrowhead, but in helping frame the strengths, frame the partnerships, that kind of thing, is that something that you all can help businesses as they're preparing to submit?
We can help businesses. We like to review capability statements. We encourage companies to have a capability statement prepared, just your elevator pitch, your very quick marketing tool that you want to obviously have ready and available. We have actually matchmaking events that we hold. We have one specifically for primes, matching primes and subcontractors. But we have G2B's, government to business events, where we invite the government agencies to come and meet with the potential contracting businesses. But the other thing that we do is we can review RFP prior to them submitting it. We'd like to make sure that they're crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's. So similar in the SBIR process. I mean, we cannot get into the technical nature, obviously, and prove your whether or not your science is correct, but we can make sure that you're meeting the parameters of what the the contractor or the agency is requesting that you answer in their RFP. So we also put on tons of classes, market research, cybersecurity, understanding RFPs, understanding labor laws, estimating and pricing, contract administration, just the whole gamut of government contracting. We don't really have a class specifically to SBIR. We really rely on New Mexico FAST for their expertise in that, but we can help alongside them, and again, refer you out to other entities like SCORE, SBDCs, or what have you, depending on where you are and how mature you are in the process. But if you're, if most of these businesses are already talking to Myrriah and talking to the other partners on intellectual property, they're probably beyond the startup phase. But we also do find a lot of companies coming out of the labs that are startups that have years and years of research and very smart scientists, but are now trying to start a business and trying to figure that process out. But we can point you in the right direction.
Right. And yeah, it's a whole different world. So I'm curious, and this is for everybody on the panel, what are the most important conversations companies can have as they're preparing to go into the SBIR STTR process? Who should they be talking to? What are some of the best resources that you've all seen for businesses that are maybe going at this for the first time? And anyone, feel free to jump in.
I know that I really wish, and we try to promote that, all the assistance organizations for SBIR and STTR, the SBDCs, the FAST programs, all of those, APEX, all of them. It's probably kind of a conundrum about how to really get people to do that, because we lose, once the phase 1 RFA closes, go immediately into administrative review, which we have to make sure that everybody followed all the guidelines in the RFA and for formatting and required documents and all that. And we probably lose roughly a fifth of people in that administrative review. And so those never get evaluated. And if they were working with SBDCs and FAST and APEX and all of these programs, then I don't think that would happen. So I wish everyone would take advantage of those resources.
Oh, that's great advice. Cliff, just because you are next on the screen, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of this process before you applied for your first SBIR STTR? What would have helped you streamline the application?
I'm going to give kudos to the Arrowhead Center. We have used their relationship and their sprints many times in helping us prepare. Because just as Melinda said, there's a lot of little gotchas in there, and you want to make sure you have a responsive proposal so that you can get to that technical round for evaluation. And so their training series have been very important for us. There's a lot of other collaborative events as well that we try to take advantage of too. DOD puts them on. We just attended a DHS meeting this week, a virtual meeting for introducing primes to small businesses. So the return on those is just so important to us as a small business, and taking advantage of the skills that these conferences and networking events really offer. I always walk away with something from each of these events, and hopefully three to five really key connections that I can follow up with as a result of it as well.
Was that virtual or is that in person, Cliff?
This week, or
the DHS.
It was actually virtual.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. That's great. And Myrriah, what about you? What do you recommend for companies that are approaching you to either be part of a proposal or just interested in going after SBIR STTR?
Well, as Cliff and both Melinda said, we refer them to Arrowhead and NMFAST because they run these sprints that are very specific depending on the federal agency. So I think they're a great resource and asset for our state. However, if there's someone that wants to maybe partner up with a faculty member for STTR, then approaching myself or the Office of Research, I think is the first step. There's always faculty looking for funding, and I think STTR is one way that they can get that funding and also work with a small business. But definitely we refer them to NMFAST and their programs.
Excellent. And Therese, anything to add on? You can't say NMFAST. That's the one reason you can't recommend that they're covered.
Okay, then I'll say New Mexico Apex Accelerators then.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're just we're not the experts in it for sure, but we are learning a lot. I have a gentleman, Gildas Lang, on my staff that has taken many classes. There have been a bunch of webinars in this last week or 2 weeks that have been all around SBIR, and he's been sharing all the emails and all of the slides with us. And we're one of our new actual goals with the program, as we got shifted over under the Office of Small Business Programs, is to facilitate innovation, connect innovative businesses to government-led innovation programs. So we're really kind of jumping in this arena a little bit more, not to step on anybody's toes, but we're, our staff is kind of learning all of the new goals and objectives that have been added to our original 3. Now we have like 34, but part of those is cybersecurity. But again, being that conduit to innovative businesses and connecting them to government-led innovation programs like SBIR. So we are actively working to kind of improve our toolbox as well under Apex Accelerator. So yeah, just lean on us and we'll point you in the right direction.
I do have a couple more questions from the Q&A. How can small businesses effectively leverage partnerships to compete best with larger corporations? Anybody?
I will say, from my perspective, I mean, one of the advantages small business have, I know there are many disadvantages, but you're nimble. They're nimble and they're quick, so they don't have so much bureaucracy to go through. So having that ability to pivot when you need to pivot, and to not have to, we have a lot of just 1 and 2 person or under 10 people applicants and awardees, and so there are some distinct advantages with those. So I think while I know there are very well known disadvantages, there are also some really good advantages.
Thank you. Okay, so one more. What are the best practices for establishing clear roles and responsibilities in a partnership?
And yeah, maybe Cliff, if you could take this one, because you've had some pretty varied experiences.
Oh, okay, certainly. Well, we and I actually had that on one of the questions that was on the list here. One of the things that we really do is ensure that before we go into a relationship that we've had really clear terms and conditions. We use non-disclosure agreements, and in those NDAs, we'll normally insert a section that says, here's what, and this gets back to, I think Myrriah had made the comment earlier, here's what each partner is going to bring to the table. And so that you don't have any conflicts when you actually go after the business, there's clear lines of the division for the work and which firm is going to get the particular aspect of a particular proposal. Having those spelled out early on is really key, because it really averts disagreements as the money starts getting on the table in the future, so to speak. And so we have found those have been very important. Myrriah had mentioned protecting intellectual property. Having at least a provisional patent in place too really helps those relationships too, because it spells out, and we've used that. We just filed a provisional patent a couple of months ago because we were to that maturity level where we wanted to make sure as we went into these relationships that we called out that existing IP in the relationship as well. The other things that, a small business can bring to the table is, we're a hub zone. We're a woman-owned small business. Bringing those certifications can help in a proposal process too. We're looking at mentor protege now. We'd love to be able to develop an agreement with a prime, a mentor protege. One of the unique aspects of the mentor protege from the SBA standpoint is a joint venture can be formed, and the joint venture has the properties of the small business, even though the prime is part of the effort as well. So those are some things where you can bring value to these relationships with a larger business, but still protect your aspect of the key pieces of the business that you want to pursue.
On that note, there's one more question. Sorry, there's one more question kind of related to what you concluded there. How does smaller business do that without compromising their own innovation's integrity? Kind of going along with a little bit what Melinda said, I think.
David, you want me to take that, or?
Oh yeah, jump in.
Well, I think it does kind of get back to the intellectual property and protecting that. We want to remain a R&D firm. We want to develop products and get them into the marketplace, but we really see the relationship with a large prime as important, from scaling for production, and most importantly, for support after you get your product out there. A lot of times small businesses think, hey, we got a new sale. Oh, that's great news, but how are you going to support it and maintain that customer relationship and help grow your customer base by having satisfied customers?
Well, so following up on that, so I'm curious about any pitfalls or cautionary tales that any of you have seen, right? So where teaming has not worked out, right? Are there things that people need to be aware of, right, as they go into this process, or any examples, right, where it was not a harmonious partnership? And maybe not. Maybe this always just works out really well for everybody.
One thing I've seen, David, at least working with faculty and the faculty working with a small business, is the faculty member was part of maybe the first patent, and then subsequent patents, they were left out because the business found a way to just kind of carve their contribution so that they were just on the main patent. So I've seen subsequent patents come out where the small business is primarily on the patent, but let's say the faculty member isn't. I think that has more to do with how it was negotiated initially. One of the things I've seen with faculty and small businesses that are applying for an SBIR, that you have to have the terms of who owns the IP, what's going to be the who's going to file the IP. This is if the government doesn't take the license, but if everything works out, the idea is there's a clear path to who owns what, and that's even before it's awarded. It's not awarded before all those IP terms are kind of minced out and everyone knows. It's very clear who owns what. So, but that is one cautionary tale where I don't think it was negotiated well initially, and this is even before I got to our university, and the faculty member was like, well, why am I not on these patents? So
yeah, that's good to know. I think probably it speaks to Cliff's earlier point too, right, about having a really clear IP management plan going into these, just as a way to protect everybody, right, and make it really clear. So that's super helpful. Thanks, Myrriah. All right, I think we've gone through questions. It looks like we are still getting some input in the chat, and maybe as we kind of sift through that, just want to see if there's anything you want to leave folks with, right? So just advice, resources again, Apex 100%. New Mexico Fast. There's incredible organizations in the state that are here to help you, I think, move forward here. I am sure I will commit all of our panelists, I think would be happy to speak with you all moving forward, but want to hand it over to the panelists now and just see if there's anything you'd like to leave our audience with.
I just want to make one comment, David. I've seen with people applying for SBIR/STTRs is don't be discouraged if you don't get it the first time. I think it's not very common, and I please correct me if I'm wrong, Melinda and Cliff, but I think it's not uncommon for an inventor or sorry, a small business to receive it the first time around. So take that feedback that comes from applying for that SBIR and try to make it better the next time.
Yes, I that's a really good point to bring up, Myrriah. I appreciate that, because I think it's across SBIR programs, I think it's roughly a 15% rate for phase one. And so those granting agencies usually give you peer feedback from the peer review panel. And that feedback is specifically meant to make your proposal more competitive. I mean, at least that's what we do in USDA, and I think it's common for some other programs also.
Yeah, and that's what we've experienced too. We've gotten, I want to think it's really because of these types of conferences and relationships that have been built, but we've been better lately in winning. But it is still that probability of win is that 15. If you get up to 20%, I think you're a star. And
so I think that's a really good takeaway. So do not be discouraged as you're starting out on this process. Cliff can testify that it gets better, and I think leverage all of these great resources, right? Some of the big takeaways, I think, for folks, look at ARS, the USDA site, right? And think about partnerships beyond just the SBIR awards themselves, right? Think about these collaborative research agreements. Cliff, you mentioned early that partnering doesn't have to start here with the application process. Build out that network early and often, and take advantage of all these resources. So, Apex and the agency matchmaking is huge, right? And I think a through line here is that from the agency side, from the ecosystem side, there are a lot of people that want to see you succeed, right? Despite, I think, the odds being difficult, right? Because there's so much innovation happening. But there are people that want to see you succeed. This panel for sure represents a really good cross section there. So, take advantage of this network, reach out, and good luck. I hope you find the right partner and keep going after these awards. It's great to see, all of the folks that are involved here today. A lot of familiar faces, and it's very exciting for the state, for sure. So thank you all. And panel, thank you very much. Chris, are there any other questions that have come through that we want to tackle before we close out here?
Yeah, there's just two more. What are the critical factors to consider when forming international partnerships? Anybody with experience? I don't know.
Well, of course, I think probably everyone or mostly everyone knows it has to be a US-based business. And generally, if you have an international partnership, there has to be a really clear reason for that. For instance, for USDA, there have been some applicants who were sourcing perhaps a plant that isn't grown here. And so they needed to, work with a company in another country in order to get that basic resource. But there has to be a real reason to do that for us. And so you can just make it clear. That's what I would say. Make it very clear in your proposal. We had one it doesn't go over very well if you say it's much less expensive do it, to source this material in another country. That will not be looked upon very favorably, but it's just the availability.
Yeah, I would say caution, because foreign ownership, control, and influence are really looking at that, especially around cybersecurity. There are definitely countries that you cannot have in your ownership or partnership, because you can end up not getting the contract as a result, or not getting the grant or the award. So yeah,
that's a very good point, Teresa. And those are the 4 countries of concern, which are People's Republic of China, Iran, People's Republic of North Korea, and Russia.
Is that something Apex can help provide some guidance on?
yes.
Okay.
And also great. Just don't forget, all of our services are free. If you're in that situation where you're like, all of a sudden you need to get a SAM registration, and you can, if you type in the word System for Award Management, there's a ton of ads that come up, and you can end up spending thousands of dollars to do what we can guide you through for free. So don't spend any money.
And the last one is more really just a statement regarding partnerships. Sandia and Lanel are great partners. Check out if you're a New Mexico small business, check out nmsbaprogram.org, and they're accepting proposals for 2024. That's all.
So another good one. That is a rolling partnership. It's always a good time to reach out. And I think, that's probably true for all of our groups. So as we close out here, just want to thank you all one last time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, your expertise on this. I hope this was a helpful panel to everyone that was attending, and look forward to talking with you all more. Thanks, NMSU, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to the panel for sharing your information on the importance of having a solid team and all of your efforts through the SBIR and STTR programs. And that wraps up today's scheduled programming. Thank you again to all of today's speakers for sharing your expertise and your experiences. And to everyone watching, we hope you leave today with a better understanding of how to navigate the federal SBIR, STTR programs. We really want to thank today's sponsors, SBA's FAST program and the Air Force Research Laboratory, and invite you to engage with them as you navigate your R&D process. As you start to find alignment with SBIR and STTR agencies, reach out to local FAST sites for support and guidance. While the main programming is over, our expo hall has representatives and information from agencies that can be accessed on this platform right here today. Have a great evening, everyone, and thank you again for joining us.